Hey, it's Sterling K. Brown from the Hulu original series Paradise. The next chapter begins as Xavier's search for his wife takes him above ground, and what he finds will change everything. It was never just about the bunker. Tune in and discover the truth lies outside. Paradise, the official podcast, is now streaming, and stream Paradise on Hulu and Hulu on Disney+.
Hello everyone, I'm Chris Wynn. Welcome to How We're the podcast, and you join us after we've had a night's sleep to hopefully let us reflect on the defeat to Fulham without having that initial misery hanging over us, or maybe not, as the case might be. But it wasn't the most fun of afternoons on a Sunday afternoon at the Stadium of Light, and it did certainly have that early Sunday afternoon kick-off feeling about it. And the 3-1 loss to Fulham means the West London club complete the double over the lads. But looking at the bigger picture, it means Sunderland have lost 3 on the bounce in the Premier League and 2 successive defeats at home. It also means we've lost more games in the last 7 fixtures than we lost in our opening 20. So hopefully we'll run through what all of this might mean. And luckily for us, we have someone with us today who has probably seen it all through reporting on this kind of loss for so much of his career with the BBC, because we're very glad to have Jeff Brown with us. Hello, Jeff.
Hi, Chris. Yes, I've seen a lot of it, sadly. Rather too many losses, but hey, there you go. Just happens when you follow for, what was the first game? 50, I've lost track. 1968, first game. So coming up 60 years.
But yeah, you were there, Jeff. I mean, I mentioned that Sunday afternoon feel about it. Actually, it did feel more like a Sunday morning than a Sunday afternoon. And I've mentioned a couple of times in the previews that Sunday afternoon kickoffs have a certain feel about it anyway. But when it's that little bit early, it just seems to deflate people before they even arrive.
Yeah, is it just because they haven't had enough time in the pub? That's
or they're cross because they haven't had their Sunday dinner, one of the two.
Yeah, something like that. I do remember a game against Chelsea a few years ago. Do you remember when the kickoff got delayed because of an electrical problem at the Stadium of Light?
Yeah.
I was just on my way out of the Harbour View, and it came on Sky that because they used to put a bus on from the Harbour View up to the Stadium of Light, and it came up on Sky that the game had been delayed, and everyone just went, "Yeah!" piled back into the pub for an extra pint, and the atmosphere was unbelievable that afternoon. So yeah, I'm not saying beer is at the root of it, but it probably does help. But also, performance is what helps, and we just really didn't perform that well. It's a bit like, it's a bit like a long partnership in cricket, isn't it? Two batsmen put on a century, 150, 200 runs, and you think, oh, this is going to go on forever. And then one gets out, and suddenly, the whole complexion changes, and people start panicking, and another batsman follows. So after waiting for so long, thinking we're going to go the whole season not losing a game, losing one, and then that air of invincibility's just gone a bit as well. So, it wasn't a great afternoon.
Yeah, and looking back at the beginning of the season with our home games, we were going big on the club and how much every game, no matter what kickoff time it was, no matter what day it was, felt like an event. It didn't feel it almost. They built each game up to be a cup final. Do you think that the position we're in the league and getting to the 36 points, do you think that's almost deflated everything by the fact that we're almost saying, right, well, we've almost achieved what we set out to do? What kind of everyone's looking around going, well, what's next?
Yeah, I think, you know what, if you're a Sunderland fan, at heart, you're a pessimist. And I'm sure that most of the people listening in will now be thinking, oh, we've got Bournemouth and Leeds coming up. We're going to lose 5 in a row now. And we're only 11 points away from relegation. You just got to, I think we've all just got to not get too carried away by it all and too downhearted. But yeah, the Liverpool game, I know a lot of, there were 2 schools of thought. There were a lot of people saying, hey, it's Liverpool, it's the league champions. Just get over the fact and rejoice in the fact that we've been unbeaten at home for so long. And then you had the others just saying, well, we didn't give it a go. And it sort of felt a bit like that yesterday. I think the crowd obviously plays its part, but you feed off the team as well. And there was a lot of passing around the back yesterday. And, we scored 2 penalties in the last 4 games and not really looked like scoring an awful. I know the Oxford keeper had a great game the other day, and there were chances yesterday, which I'm sure we'll come on to. But yeah, there wasn't a lot to get excited about, especially in the first half. Wow. That was one of the dullest first halves of football I've seen in a long time.
Yeah. And, talking about negative spirals at Sunderland, I don't know what you're talking about, Jeff. But, yeah, I mean, in the preview, in the build-up to this game, I was actually thinking how much of a big game this is, because you come out of playing a run of playing Arsenal and Liverpool back-to-back, and it's almost this relief, right? Okay, we're out of that now. We've got Fulham at home, mid-table side, 2 points between the two sides. If you look at, I think we'd lost, was it 3 out of the last 4? And, we'd lost that home game. And I felt it was a really big game, a really big opportunity for the team to put a marker down and say, we're back. We're out of that form now. We've got a run of games where we can maybe pick up some points. And it was a real opportunity to really go at it. And I thought it was a big game, taking what had happened before the game into account.
Well, it was, especially when you think it would have been, a win would have been 39 points, I think up to 8th, obviously gone above Newcastle as well. But it just didn't feel like that, did it? It didn't seem like, it didn't feel like the players felt it was a big game. We had, it was a bit of a new team, so that obviously doesn't help. And I think the fact that we've lost games without Granit Xhaka starting is fairly obvious how huge a part he is to us. Someone pointed out, I must admit, I didn't really take any notice, but one of my pals I was talking to after the game said at half time, when you would have thought they were in need of some sort of lift in the dressing room, he said Xhaka and Luke O'Nien were out on the pitch passing the ball around. And he thought, surely they should have been in the dressing room. The 2 players you would have thought would have said, right, hey, come on. It's a big game to win. We need to win this one. Gene it up and reinforcing whatever message Régis Lebris was putting out. So, yeah, maybe there were just a few things that we didn't quite get right yesterday.
There's a really interesting one, actually, because I was talking about this again in reaction to the manager's press conference in the build-up to the game, because it does feel like Granit Xhaka was even though he's been out, the first question was about Granit Xhaka every week, before the game, after the game, and he had nothing to do with the games, yet he was always the first question from the journalist's point of view. And there was one question this week that came at Régis Lebris that he kind of, you could say he reacted to almost, because someone said, he's almost like your assistant manager. And he said, I've got a coaching staff. I've got an assistant manager. And there seems to be this thing now where Régis Lebris is kind of, at the start of the season, it was, yes, he's my coach on the pitch. And yes, and now it's kind of almost to the point where it's changed slightly, where it's slapping it down a little bit.
Yeah, I can imagine he's getting a bit irritated by people suggesting that he can't do anything without Xhaka there. And the fact that he is, that he was always in the background, even when he's injured, seems to suggest that we can't do without him. And yeah, maybe Régis doesn't react to much, but that was interesting.
But that even leads to the point of, the points that your friends were making, where you said, well, Granit Xhaka should be in the dressing room.
Yeah. You would imagine, wouldn't you, that he would have been around, giving it, shaking a fist and making sure they understood what was needed. Because both teams were poor, to be fair. It was a nothing first half, really. And although Fulham did have a couple of half chances, and I thought looked a little bit more lively and a bit more likely. We just seem to take that ball around the back 4. And then no option but knocking into channels and hope Robbie or the wingers were gonna latch onto it. Didn't seem to be much of a plan.
Well, that's it. I mean, because if we get into the starting 11, of course, Xhaka was on the bench, presumably deemed not fit enough to start, which I always find a really odd thing. If a player's fit, he can start. I always think. I mean, you're talking about match sharpness or whatever, but if he's fit to be on the bench, you're either taking a risk putting him on the bench, so he might as well start. But he did come on the bench, and that might have been a vote of confidence for the three of Diarra, Siddiqui, Lafay in the middle, because Lafay has been playing well in that central role. But I want to talk about what seemed like a positive move on the wings, because Angulo and Jocelyn out wide, which I was actually surprised that he went with both of them, and I think a lot of people were. But again, you look at Mundle and Talby on the bench, and those players have been trying all season, and Lebris goes with two completely new players. I mean, they must see, I don't know whether they might see that as a slap in the face, but I thought it was a big surprise, and initially I thought it was a positive move.
Well, yeah, I think everybody did, and everyone you're always excited because you don't know what you're going to get. Really, that's the thing. Talby, especially after his goal against Burnley, it doesn't seem to have earned him any brownie points whatsoever. And then you had within about 15, 20 seconds of kickoff, Jocelyn does this lovely turn, and you think, whoa, this kid's clearly a bit special. And then he bounced off a challenge from Smith Rowe. Like it was someone in the playground coming up against a big six former, and then they trust him with the corner, which goes into the side netting. In fact, I don't think any of the corners in the first half actually reached the 6-yard box. And you suddenly start thinking, it's a big, tough league. I think the one thing that any player coming from outside who's even played, in Spain or Italy or wherever, they'll come and they'll say that the Premier League is really physical and it's really fast. And we've probably got quite a lot of players who are still, coming up to speed. And sadly, Jocelyn obviously got injured as well, came off, within half an hour. But I think after only a few minutes, you could see people looking around thinking, whoa, I'm not sure this kid's quite ready for this just yet. Yeah.
I mean, raw is the word, I think, when it comes to Jocelyn. It'll be interesting to see when he comes back. But those early stages, I mean, I think Michele went down injured after about 5 minutes. I think he first went in down injured. And of course, things like that interrupt your rhythm and the momentum of the game. But it did seem like, and I do think more sides are going to do like what Fulham did, where they know how the stadium can get. If the stadium gets up, then they know they're in trouble, and teams do know they're in trouble. And it's almost like Fulham just said, right, well, to start the game, we have no intention at all of attacking. We're just going to sit in and quieten this crowd. And I feel like sides now feel, well, that's what we need to do first before we then go on and win the game.
Yeah, quite possibly. Yes, yeah, you're right. It does have a huge bearing on. I mean, what does the crowd love almost as much as a goal? A good challenge, a block tackle. Yeah, people were desperate for something to cheer. I think Robbie blocked one that went out for a goal kick, and it was a massive roar. And because you just want to see the players are committed and they're giving everything. But you're right, and the injuries, didn't help, and we lost, Mukiele storming down the wing and knocking over these lovely crosses. We lost that. Hopefully not for long, although calf muscles can be particularly nasty. I hope he didn't do any lasting damage by staying on after his initial treatment. And then Jocelyn goes off after half an hour, and suddenly it's. And Mundle comes on, and Angulo has to switch wings. I think the other thing about Jocelyn, and without picking on him, he wasn't the only one. But can players not kick with both feet these days? I mean, I don't know. He's obviously a left-footed player on the right, which is the trend now, so he can cut inside. But I think it was Dan Ballard played a lovely ball down the channel for him, and it was perfect for a right-footed cross. And he cut back inside and lost it. I think Robbie did that later on in the game, where he made himself some space on the edge of the box, ready for a left foot shot. And clearly didn't want to trust his left foot. Yeah, maybe I'm a bit old-fashioned. I think players should actually, if you're getting paid that much, you should actually be able to kick at least half decently with both feet.
Yeah. Well, it was acceptable back in the day because they didn't get paid enough, Jeff. Is that what you're saying? But yeah, well, after about 20 minutes, and I think it came from that corner, like you said, from Jocelyn, where he ended up winning the corner. He tried to do it with his left foot instead of his right foot and whip it in. I think we got a corner from it. There was a penalty shout when Angulo went down, but it might have been a bit of a soft one if it was given. But I think that the referee, in fact, gave a free kick, which was absolutely crazy to Fulham. But just on Angulo, because we talked about Jocelyn being raw, what's your feelings about the early games that Angulo's had? Because obviously he's still finding his feet and he's getting used to the pace of the Premier League and everything. But he looks to be someone who's quite direct when he gets the ball, doesn't he?
Yes, yeah, he's definitely got something. He has got something about him, and he doesn't mind taking players on, and fans like to see that. Fans like a bit of excitement, and yeah, shame he didn't put that chance away in the second half, which the keeper definitely got a touch to. Can't believe the ref gave it.
Yeah, absolutely ridiculous.
A goal kick for that one, but yeah, but then again, he was disrupted. He had to swap wings, and Mundell came on. It was just so stop-start that whole first half. I think people were just wanting to hear the half-time whistle. Although, it could have been that Fulham might possibly have reached it with 10 men if Jimenez had been sent off, having picked up a booking.
Well, what do you think about that? Because I honestly think, and I watched it back quite a few times, I actually think it's a real strange one with referees, because there was another one with Berger where he had two exactly the same, where his second one was given a yellow card, I think, and his first one wasn't. But in the Jimenez case, his first one was really soft. I mean, it probably wasn't a yellow card, but the problem is when a referee sets the bar like that, and then he does it exactly the same again and doesn't get a yellow card, the referee's lost it, hasn't he?
It's the inconsistency, isn't it? I think that once you've given that first yellow card, you've got to give the second one. That's if you're judging it on if that's the level of offence, then yeah. But you knew what was in the ref's mind. He's thinking, nah, he hasn't really done enough to get sent off. And obviously that had massive bearing on the game, as these things tend to do. Craig Pawson, I think not one of most fans' favourites. I mean, you talked about the free kick he gave against Angulo, which was right on the byline.
Yeah.
And the keeper took the free kick from roughly between the penalty spot and the 6-yard box, and he let it go. And then in the second half, he makes Robin Roos move the ball back probably about 2 inches to get it on the line for the goal kick. Just that sort of inconsistency just niggles at fans, when they're already pretty well wound up by the way the game's going.
Yeah. Well, just on, you mentioned Robin Roos there was a stat after 25 minutes that Robin Roos had more touches than any other player on the pitch. And as much as I mean, Brian Brobby is turning into one of my favourite Sunderland strikers for a long, long time. But I always remember the conversations in, Niall Quinn's early days with Sunderland, when people used to say he was an easy out for the players. Where, if they just thought, well, I'm not going to think of anything more, imaginative than just pumping the ball forward or doing a long diagonal. It does feel like with Brian Brobby up there, they've got so much confidence in him to try and hold the ball up or whatever, that they just end up knocking it long. And sometimes, because of the distance, it becomes an aimless ball forward. And sometimes we end up falling into that trap too much.
Yes, I think there was a lot of that, especially in the first half. And again, I think that's possibly because Xhaka's not around, because Xhaka dictates things. He takes balls and makes things happen in the middle. I don't know whether without him, the midfield slightly adrift and thinking we haven't got how far forward can we push to support Brobby? I mean, Diarra barely seemed to get forward at all yesterday. And without knowing, you've got the safety of Xhaka, eating everything up in the middle of the park. There's just that little bit of disconnect between the whole team. Really, he's like the anchor. He's so solid when he comes on, and you give him the ball, and he very rarely gives it away. And he's got the sort of ingenuity to open up defenses just with it, like he nearly did for Mayenda with a little flick in the second half that almost put him in. And without that, you're right. I mean, Roof's the touches were the vast majority of them were obviously from his own players passing back to him, and it reminded me of we had a spell like that under Tony Mowbray, where there was some great times under Mogger, but there was a period where the defense just passed it around, and it frustrated the hell out of him as much as anybody. Possession isn't everything. You've got to do something with it, and we didn't really look like doing much with it yesterday.
Well, this is interesting because on 40 minutes, Siddiqui had a left foot shot, and it went straight into the keeper's arms. But that was the first shot on target of the game after 40 minutes. It was also the only shot on target for either side in that first half. And there was another stat as well on that between about 30 minutes and 45 minutes, Sunderland had 75% possession. Now, I think it's been a slight concern all season about us going forward and creating chances. But those stats are quite damning, aren't they? Where we had 75% of possession for 15 minutes. We had one shot on target at home when we played two. You could say we put a positive starting 11 out. And you could maybe look to the point where we had injured players and the rhythm of the game went out. But I mean, that's poor, isn't it? Where you've got one shot on target to show for it, and you've had all that possession, and you're at home, and the expectation is for you to create chances.
Yeah, but it's it's been fairly similar all season. We've got 28 goals in 27 league games. Half as many. I know it is Arsenal. Half as many as Arsenal and Man City. We're not half as good. They're not twice as good as Sunderland are. It's been a problem. It has been a problem all season, creating chances and taking them. And I mean, Brobby at times. I agree with you. I think he's great. I think he's one of the best we've had for a long time. The way he holds the ball up. But you can see at times he's thinking, "Is anyone going to give me a hand here? Is anyone going to be hanging around?" And it is a thankless task when the ball's just being pumped up to you, and you've got to do it all yourself.
Yeah. Well, before we get into the second half and where it all went wrong, I think that's a chance for us to take a quick break. So we'll be back very soon.
LinkedIn is pretty great at a lot of things, like helping you tap into the latest trends and insights in your field. We cannot stop your coworker from tapping her pencil. LinkedIn can help you find new jobs that align with your career goals. We cannot help you find the source of that weird smell in the office fridge. Ew. And while we can't stop your coworkers from bringing their hobbies into the office, LinkedIn can help you bring your career to the next level. LinkedIn is the network that works for you.
And welcome back to How We're the podcast. And if you don't want to hear the analysis of where it all went wrong, I suppose now's the time to press pause on the whatever device you're using, because we're going to get into this second half. But just quickly, just because it kind of rolled over, the end of the first half, there was a couple of incidents where Sunderland put the ball out for an injured player for Fulham, and then Fulham didn't put it out for Sunderland. Now, at this point, the Sunderland fans went up. The whole stadium, you could feel there was a bit of energy about everyone. You'd see the players on the pitch, they were angry. They had a bit of fire in them. And I thought that actually, for those few minutes, that rolled into the start of the second half, because I thought when we came out for the second half, we had I think there was an Enzo Lefebvre got in off a long Roof's pass. Brilliant first touch. Could have had a shot maybe, but tried to cross it. And then Broby had a brilliant chance, and we'll come on to the Mundle one. But I thought that fire actually rolled into that second half a little bit, but it needed a spark, didn't it, like that?
It did, yes. I mean, there was a clear sense of injustice. It was, very, as you say, Sunderland put the ball out when a Fulham player was down, and I think it was because a free kick hadn't been given, and Fulham clearly thought, well, he can't be injured because it wasn't a foul, and played on. But yeah, it was, yeah, good old fashioned, British justice. You've got to put the ball out because it for a long time there's been a tradition. It seems to have gone the other way, and teams are generally playing on, and thinking, well, hard luck if a player's down injured. And yeah, I think you're probably right. That it did seem to fire everyone up at the start of the second half, and we did start it well. And I think in the press box we were all saying first goal is going to be really important here, and yeah, we should have scored it.
Well, we'll come on to this because 51 minutes, and actually I thought there was a moment before I mentioned the Broby half chance where he worked his way across the pitch and everyone thought shoot, and he tried to play it wide. I think it was to Enzo Lafay out wide, but then it ended up being a poor pass. But we did get in a good position. A minute later, Geertruida, actually, I thought was fantastic in the press, and then played a brilliant little pass through to Mundle, and Mundle was through, and it was just kind of the way it's going for him. He snatched at it. He didn't try and kind of bend it either way. It was one of those where you got to, somebody in form is going to bend it into the corner using their outside of the foot or their inside of the foot, and he kind of poked at it, and it went well wide in the end when it was. I mean, and we're talking about a poor performance, which you've touched on, actually, not too dissimilar from a lot of performances we've had this season. But in the past, that big moment's gone for us, and this time Mundle missed it.
Yeah, we've been very good at being able to dig out results at times when you didn't think it was possible, like the Bournemouth game, Everton for a while, Leeds. Did you think? And this, I think if Mundle had scored, I'm pretty confident that Sunderland would have won. I mean, I'm sure you're going to touch on this as well. The abuse that he got online, it's just, it's crazy. I mean, colour of his skin's got nothing to do with whether he puts the ball away or not. Is he Premier League quality? Is a question that you can ask. He's only 22. He's still learning, and the jury's out there. I'd love him to make it because I do. I think he was last season. He was great for us. And the injuries that he's had, I'm delighted that he's got back and forced his way into the team. But yeah, the racist abuse is just, well, got absolutely no place in any sport, never mind football, and anywhere in humanity really. And I'm hoping it wasn't Sunderland fans. The likelihood is that some of them may have been. I don't know if you saw the Australian tennis player who was who's retired, quitting this. She's only 25. Destiny Ava, and she was saying that a lot of the abuse the abuse she's got was from gamblers who've been betting on her to win games that she'd gone on and lost. And other teams, fans can often make mischief, but hey, whoever it is, he didn't miss it on purpose. Okay, but he did miss it, as you say, by a margin. And I think everybody in the ground was sort of halfway out of their seats, ready to salute the goal on his right foot as well, on his favourite. So I'm sure he'll be waking up this morning, looking at it and thinking, how did I not score there? And it would have changed the complexion of the game without doubt.
Yeah, that's it. Well, the club did put out a statement. It began saying, Sunderland FC is appalled by the vile online racist abuse directed at Romain Mundle following today's Premier League fixture against Fulham. It went on to say that the club is actively working with the relevant authorities and online platforms to identify those responsible, and we will take the strongest possible action available to us. These individuals do not represent Sunderland AFC, our values, or our community, and they are not welcome on Wearside. So it was a deservedly so strong statement from the club. And again, there's a lot of assumptions because it's online, because well, in my view, social's a cesspit at the best of times, but it's always assumptions about who these people are, and that people can hide behind not using their real names and all of that. So hopefully these people are kind of found out, and that again, as the club said, the strongest possible action is taken. But we'll leave that there, because, as I said, it was a chance missed. It does happen. But a moment later, there was a breakout, and Harry Wilson, broke and shot, and Trey Hume did a fantastic block. Actually, it ended up going out for the corner, so it went directly up the other end of the pitch. Now, this corner, again, we've seen it a couple of times sneaking into Sunderland's play, defending corners, and this was another real strange one. Just looked so easy, and when you saw the replay back, Alderete and Gertruida seemed to get caught under the ball, just almost ball watching, not really going up and attacking it and making sure we win it. And the way we defend space, that's the way we defend corners. And when you've got a couple of players who don't really go up there and attack it, and Roofs isn't in there, it just looked so easy for Jimenez just to nod home.
It did. A bit like Van Dijk the other week for Liverpool. I mean, you touched on Alderete there. I don't know, maybe are one or two players just beginning to feel the pace of the season and the initial euphoria of being at the club, and the whole the whole hoopla of what a great start, and it's just starting to, one or two are getting a little bit leggy, a little bit tired. Alderete, I don't feel has been the player in recent weeks that he was when in the first couple of months of the season. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh on him. But you're right. Yeah. It was a soft goal, a free header. Not even a particularly powerful one, just nicely guided into the bottom corner. And as I said earlier, you knew the first goal was going to be so important, and for it to be followed by another fairly soft second one not long after was a bit of a killer.
Yeah, well, I thought it was the first goal I thought was a real sucker punch, because I did genuinely think it looked like Sunderland were likely to open the scoring before that Fulham goal. And it was only 4 minutes later. And I did feel like, because it felt like such a sucker punch, it almost kind of drew all the energy out of the Sunderland players. I felt like they needed it. But it did come from a free kick on the Fulham's right-hand side, our left-hand side. And I'm going to slightly disagree with Gav, because he said on the initial match reaction pod that he felt it was never a free kick. Now, my take on this, it was a free kick that we never needed to give away. And I thought it was one of these with Trey Hume, where sometimes with Trey Hume, and sometimes we love it, don't get us wrong, and he's one of my favourite players because of it. But sometimes, rather than just win the ball, he wants to take everything. And I just thought this was a really stupid free kick to give away.
It did look like he wanted to make a bit of a statement to show that they were still up and still fighting for it. And as you say, we more often than not, we absolutely love it because the fans love a tackle, love it, and especially love a Trey Hume tackle. I think the annoying thing was that it play seemed to continue. I mean, it was only a matter of seconds, but it was quite a few seconds before Craig Pawson decided that it was a free kick. And I mean, it wasn't the signal from his assistant or anything. I don't know what was going on in his mind. It was almost as if, let's have a look. Is he hurt? Oh, I think he might be. Yeah, actually, that's probably a free kick. And that puzzled. That was just
It got to the right decision by accident, almost, didn't it?
Yeah. It was. It was very. You wouldn't mind if he'd given it straight away, but it just that sort of fueled a sense of injustice, and then of course for the for it to go to VAR, which most obviously we could see the replay in the press box, so pretty much straight away you looked at it and you went, oh yeah, that's a penalty. Whereas most fans wouldn't have seen it because it happened so quickly that Robbie's tug of the shirt.
Well, that's interesting, because there was a couple of things I was going to ask you about this. Because one, if you look at the back of the replay, Siddiqui's actually doing exactly the same thing as Robbie. It could have been a penalty against either of them. But the first one I was going to ask was, do you think it was enough? And the second one, it'll be interesting if you were in and around the press box, because it didn't seem to me that they looked for the offside. Because when I've seen frames back of the incident of the free kick, there does look like a hint of offside, but I didn't see anything on any replays that showed there wasn't offside.
No, I think the explanation for that was that the offence took place before the ball was kicked. So they started running and he was being pulled back before the ball was in play. So although there would have been offside when the ball was kicked, the offence had already taken place. And it was, I mean, he literally probably had a handful of them. It was Bassey, wasn't it? And Calvin Bassey started running away, and he had a handful of his shirt. It's just a brainless thing to do, really. Why, when you know VAR's around? I suppose it's instinct. Players do it. They all they'll do it instinctively. Just try and grab a handful of shirt.
Well, on this though, we're talking about consistency. We should be seeing about 10 penalties a game.
Yes, I know.
So do they just give this one, and every time someone's got a load of Ballard shirt, we just ignore it?
Yeah. It's and it would we enjoy it if it was stop-start and it was 10 penalties a game, right? Yeah. Would it ever stop players doing it?
I doubt it. I think they enjoy it too much, to be honest. But yeah, the penalty went in. I think Jimenez has scored 13 or 14 off the bounce, I think. So I don't think there was going to be any other outcome than a goal with that. But again, Sunderland's reaction, I do think that earlier in the season, because we came out, and I think we kind of had hints of that fight that we had earlier in the season. And I think it must have been 10, 15 minutes later in the end when it was left to Ballard to show the wingers how to take someone on the byline. I mean, I actually think when it was kept in, I might have been Diarra who kept it in. I can't remember exactly who kept it in.
Hertrode, I think it was.
It was Hertrode. But it was fantastic the way we kept the ball in play. And then Ballard, he took control of the ball, which he had no right to actually win in the first place. But then they didn't just play it simple. He took the player on, and Sessegnon, who was about half the size of him, ended up grappling them to the floor. But it just showed, because I did think in the game, Dan Ballard was one of the only players who tried to inject a bit of energy into the team.
He is already player of the season, isn't he? I mean, nothing anyone can do in the last 11 games can, or even more if there's a run to Wembley. Nothing anyone can do will take that away from him. He is, with head and shoulders, player of the season. He is so much grown into the role of a Premier League footballer. Which actually, one of my mates said a long time ago. One of my mates is a Millwall fan, and when he joined Sunderland after his loan spell at Millwall, he got in touch and said how disappointed he was that Ballard had gone. Bearing in mind, this must have been about 4 years ago now, and he said they were worried. Millwall were worried because Arsenal had a bit of a defensive crisis at the time, and they thought Ballard was going to be recalled and go straight in the Premier League, and that was 4 years ago. And he said, "You have got a great player there," and I think we've just seen him year on year become an even better, stronger, and more accomplished player. And he said, "Yeah," and you're right, he did. And it's what was needed. Someone had to just get in there, have a go, and won the penalty. And thank goodness Lefebvre decided he's just got to put his foot through the ball. No more Panenkas, please.
Yes, there was a little bit of pressure on him, but he did the right thing. Absolutely fantastic penalty. But again, we'd made the triple substitution before that. We got the penalty. We made it 2-1 with, well, at the time, we might not have realised, but there was probably best part of 20 minutes, if not more, left to get an equaliser. And the team did push, but it just didn't, we've had so much about till the end and the atmosphere and all, but it still didn't feel like a big push after that when it was 2-1. And I thought, come on, then here's our chance. And nothing seemed to happen. Nothing seemed to lift as if to say, right, we can get back from 2-0 down here.
No, there was that one sort of not long after the goal. There was a Lefay sort of an overhead kick or from the edge of the box, or swung a leg at it, and there was a bit of excitement, but that was about it, really, wasn't it? It was strange. Again, triple substitution, and so the team is unrecognisable from the one that started, and you're looking to Isidore and Mayenda to make things happen, and they didn't really. They barely saw the ball, and didn't really inject much energy at all. And then as we're up pressing at one end and get caught by an excellent breakaway, and even though, as you say, by then there was still a quarter of an hour left after that, but with the 9 minutes added on.
Well, that's what I was going to. That's what I was going to ask you, because I was really surprised. Because again, the breakaway with about 5 minutes left of the regulation 90, Wilson was fantastic. Carried the ball the full length of the pitch, laid it off to Iwobi. Good finish. 3-1 with 15 minutes left. Now, it just seemed like I don't know whether it was an indictment of the performance or what, but at that point, everybody seemed to show what they felt by using their feet and leaving. When you thought, well, 9 minutes injury time, 5 minutes left of normal time, 15 minutes left. This is still doable. We've seen it before, but everyone just decided, nope, that's the end. And that's got to translate onto the pitch, because the players have got to feel that. The players have got to feel that the fans have given up. And you could almost sense it, because the players went, wow, this is over now. Whereas in the past, you would have thought the players would have had that belief.
Yeah, yes, it was sort of like the bad old days of everyone leaving early, wasn't it? Maybe they had to get home for their Sunday dinner. I mean, it can't be that much of a rush at 4:00 on a Sunday. Come on, but I can understand it, because most people by then just thought, nah, this one's gone. But you're right. Nobody was talking about till the end. It was just, let's get out of here. We've seen enough of this, and that was a bit like the bad old days. I remember one of the about a year ago, one of the club officials said to me, what can we do to make the fans stay till the end? Because it is having an effect. The players do notice it. And at times last season, when games would finish, he said the players would turn around and there were the ground's half empty, and you think, well, we want to celebrate, we want to enjoy this with you. Most people had just turned and already headed off home, and it looked like that the club had found a cure for that mainly by playing great football. But yeah, it just what are Sunderland fans? They don't stand any nonsense. If it's because in truth, although there was a quarter of an hour left, I think everyone's sitting there was thinking, we're getting nothing out of this game, and it's too painful just to sit and watch it. But it doesn't reflect, well on the if the stands are empty by the final whistle.
Well, if it was an indictment of the performance, do you really feel that the performance was that much worse than in most of the games that we've seen at the stadium of this season? Or was it one of those where it was similar, but we just didn't... Let's say Mundell, got that goal. We went on to win 1-0. Would people be talking too much about the performance?
No, probably not. And they would have stayed to the end because it was 3 points. I think you realise that everyone realises how difficult it is. It's a very trite, easy thing to say. Oh, there's no easy games in the Premier League. Well, there are easier ones. There are less hard ones than playing Arsenal and Liverpool. And I think it was a disappointment that most people thought this is going to be one of those less hard games at Fulham. Was that their first away win all season? They certainly hadn't done much. But I actually saw the game down there as well, and both games against Fulham have been pretty poor performances. I don't know why. Maybe is it players sometimes can't get up for the less glamorous games, because the big games we've tended to really pull something out of the fire and really, give it everything.
Well, luckily, they've won four this season now, so we're not the only side, which isn't
right. Maybe it was
which isn't fantastic. But where does this kind of defeat and this run leave us, Jeff? Because we've all been saying fantastic season, and it is. I think every Sunderland fan would have snapped their hand off if they were offered this at the end of the final whistle at the playoff final. But 36 points. And the whole talk, Regis Labus has been saying that's the target. He's been saying it all season, the 40-point mark, that's the target. Is it one of them where the closer you get to something, the further away it feels?
Yeah, quite possibly. And it's no guarantee. 40 points, you can't just get to 40 points and stop there for the rest of the season. And it should be enough already by 36 points. Will West Ham win 4 out of their last 11 games? They might do, but that would mean we wouldn't take any points at all from our last 11. So I think I've been saying this. I've been saying this all season to my mates in the pubs. We've got to enjoy this season. We've got to enjoy this season. It is so unexpected. And next season will be totally different because it won't have been in the same, the playoff semi-final and final will be a little bit more of a distant memory by next season. And if we finish mid-table, the expectations for next season will be through the roof. And if we don't, if we suddenly find ourselves in a relegation battle, then people are going to be moaning again because that's what we do, and forgetting about the fact that, hey, not many years ago, they were 2 divisions further down. It's just the nature of being a football fan and nature of being a Sunderland fan, I think. But yeah, in the short term, two big tough away games coming up in the space of just over a week, and we just need to batten down the hatches and get something out of at least one of those games.
Well, dare I say it, and I'm going to put this one to you, Jeff, just because I'm playing devil's advocate here, of course. But you said 2 away games, and based on that, that kind of atmosphere at the end of that Fulham game, is it possible that the players might actually have a complete turnaround and go, actually, the pressure's slightly off away from home, and maybe we can go to Bournemouth without too much, because there's not much expectation. I think we've won 2 away all season out of 13. I think we haven't won away since Chelsea a week before Halloween. So maybe, do you think there's an element of the players might think, actually, pressure's off a little bit away from home?
I'd like to think so, but I think they'll probably be thinking we've lost 3 in a row and we're on a bit of if human nature tells you that pessimism tends to be the outweigh optimism, unless you're a particularly sunny person.
We are here on How We're the Podcast, of course. Trying.
I know, but hey, 12:30 on a Saturday, you never know. It might be Brighton Bournemouth where the atmosphere is a bit dead on their behalf, and an hour away support is always great. So it might be just the thing that lifts them. Xhaka, I would imagine, having come through 20 minutes or whatever, 30 minutes at the end, will be available. And there've been some, although there've not been many wins. You think back to Liverpool. What a great performance that was. We've had some not bad performances away from home. Crystal Palace, I was down there. Fantastic battling performance to get a point. I think that's what they need. They just need a gritty 0-0 draw would suit just about every fan, I think.
Yeah, considering how many times we've conceded 3 recently, and the first hour at Arsenal as well, I thought was one of the best performances. We just couldn't back it up for that extra half hour. And on the Bournemouth point, I will say that they haven't lost in 6 games. But anyway, I'll just throw that one out there. But let's finish on a positive note, Jeff, because of course, Sunderland are through to the last 16 of the FA Cup. And just to throw another little tidbit in there, that, of course, we beat Oxford in the 4th round. And the last time we did that was 1992, which I imagine you remember fondly as I do. But we've still got that. And I remember actually during that season, when we did get to the final, Sunderland couldn't win a league game for anything. But as soon as we came up against the Chelseas and the West Hams and the Norwiches, we stepped it up. Could it be that some of the players have got one eye on this cup run?
Well, yeah, quite possibly. Again, it is human nature. You get involved in something like that, and you lift your game, and you know there's a cup final at the end of it. I well remember that that cup run. I was actually that season. I was chairman of the North East Football Writers Association, and I had to give the speech at the end of the year, and I made some reference to the fact that great run to Wembley, but that was. I said that I think I said. Remember, I said I'd seen Sunderland play some of the best and some of the worst football, and it's got a bit of a gasp from some of the the players who were there. But it nearly got relegated to Division 3 as was, and went through to Wembley. So and played Port Vale as well in the 3rd round. So that's still not being decided, is it? It's still being decided.
No.
Port Vale.
Well, it's decided like 3 days before the game or something, isn't it? The play of that game, the rearranged game. But yeah, let's play out the rest of the season. I'm sure we'll catch up with you before it all plays out, Jeff. But a cup run and getting to 40 points. I mean, again, that's a successful season, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's certainly this time last year. If you'd put this scenario to any Sunderland fan, they would have absolutely bitten your hand off. To be halfway up the Premier League, even from just before the start of the season, I was at an event at the ground, and I was sitting on a table next to David Bruce, and I said, "How do you think the season's going to go?" And he said, "We're aiming for 12th." And I sort of sat back in amazement and said, "Really? 12th?" I said, in my lifetime, there have been 3 top 10 finishes in my lifetime, and I'm 64. I mean, that's the scale of the achievement. And so to be around the top 10 in the Premier League, I know every Sunderland fan thinks we deserve to be higher up, but just historically, it is an achievement, and yeah, let's enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah. Well, that's a fantastic place to end it, I think, on a positive note, because just leaves me to say thank you very much, Jeff. Really appreciate your time. It's always been an absolute pleasure.
Good Cheers stuff. Again.
And thanks again, everyone, for listening. Don't forget, we'll have loads more analysis on the Roker Report website of the Fulham game, if you so wish. And we'll have pods every day as usual this week. So look out for all of that. But from us, it's bye for now.